Hello, Internet. It's Daniel with Driving and Dragons. Back today with kind of a catch-all video. Just a couple of little announcements, little musings, and then we're going to talk about the Wizards of the Coast news of the day. So starting off with, I was looking back at some of the work I've done previously on the Cyber City Dodge campaign setting for Cyberpunk Red that I was working on, and I've kind of come to a loss. I'm going to do a full video on setting specific role-playing game systems later, but I've kind of fallen into the trap of where I'm looking at it and I'm finding a lack of supporting material and supplementary material that is really needed, I'd say, to develop a wholly unique system. That Cyberpunk Red just being so heavily focused on Night City and that super coastal urban setting has really found me wanting. Don't get me wrong, I love Cyberpunk Red. That's my current main game. My main group plays just about every other Sunday. We're having a blast, and you can certainly leave Night City and have the material there to run some good sessions and good missions, but if you're really trying to flesh out a full campaign setting, it's a little bit lacking. So I'm thinking about actually taking that and turning it into a complete standalone, bespoke tabletop role-playing game system, and I guess I can just join on the hordes of people who have tabletop role-playing game YouTube channels who all of a sudden have their own system and see how that goes. But what do you think? Let me know below. Another quick announcement here. A while back, I did a review of the Colonies and Conquerors system from Spirit Bear Studios. I found the game to be pretty solid. It's definitely high-powered. I liked it. I thought that it was pretty well thought out and was definitely a very playable, easy-to-pick-up game. They have announced that they are looking at actual print media now. Like, they'll actually be doing a production run of books. I don't know if they're going to be doing print on demand and they're just finishing out their layout, or if they're going to be doing a limited production run, but I'm actually really excited about that. And especially if you like a historic setting and you like high-powered games where the characters are pretty heroic, pretty far and above the average Joe, so to speak, Colonies and Conquerors is a great game, and I suggest you take a look at it. I'm going to drop a link both to my First Thoughts review as well as to Spirit Bear Studios down in the link. It's definitely worth a look. So let's move on to Wizards of the Coast and the news of the day. Now, I don't make any pretensions that I'm some kind of journalist. I don't make any kind of presumptions or pretension that I'm going to be breaking any news or that I've got some great inside sources. But what I will say is that I'm pretty good when it comes to analysis. I can usually suss out what's going on with the situation pretty good, and this whole channel is really commentary for my thoughts on these things anyway. And the big news of the day is that as part of their layoffs and then continuing forward, Wizards of the Coast laid off pretty much the entirety of their print media and layout and more or less their book development department. They got rid of the people that are used that, help make the physical media. This should not be a surprise to anybody. Just as a matter of course here, Ten Cars Tavern, I believe, was the first to break this. It's definitely the first place I've heard it. I've seen Pundit has spoken on it, as have others. Professor Dungeon Master has spoken of it. But what I'm looking at on this doesn't surprise anybody. Wizards has been moving very heavily away from a physical medium tabletop space for quite some time now. They want you on the VTT. They want you digital. Not just because production is much, much quicker and much, much less expensive than physical medium. It's not, it's much easier to sell. It has much better margins, obviously, because there's no physical books to produce and ship and shelf and store. But it fits into their ongoing model of wanting to more heavily monetize the player base and to move into what is generally referred to as software as a service. Software as a service is what you guys, for those who are not familiar, is where you don't ever actually own the product. You just license the rights to use it. Microsoft Office has been this way for quite some time now, where you don't actually own Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. What you own is the rights to use it, and Microsoft can come in and lock you out of it if you decide to stop paying for it, or if you don't pay for it on a certain number of systems, etc., etc. And that is definitely where Wizards of the Coast has been moving over the past several years. Now, this is not a surprise to anybody. This is really a big part of it. I said in a previous video when we were talking about the firings at Wizards of the Coast that this would have been expected anyway, even without the bad year, because they're moving away from the print medium and they don't need that much support. They've also finished the 6th edition rule set and everything, and they don't need those designers and whatnot. You're also going to have a few, as Pundit mentioned, contract employees. They don't have jobs the way you and I think about them, where you're hired by a company and you work there and then eventually you get fired or you quit or whatever, or you retire. They had contract jobs. You are specifically hired for a short period of time. Kind of like a TV host when they say, oh, well, they weren't able to renew the contract. Or a sports star. He plays quarterback for the Bills, but he's only got a 3-year contract. And at the end of that 3 years, they got to renegotiate, or sometimes they don't renegotiate. Same thing here. You get hired to do 3 books or 5 adventure modules, and when you finish those 5 adventure modules, you're not employed by the company anymore. You don't even have to be fired. This is a move towards Wizards going digital purely from a sustainability and a profitability standpoint. They cannot continue to grow in the physical medium world. And that's really just the way of the future for these larger corporations. They don't care about the small niche hobbyist. They don't care about the Dungeons and Dragons purist. They care about mass market and more mass market appeal. And if they can get 10 casual players who subscribe for a few months and then unsubscribe and then subscribe a few months later, or who just sign in for a big special bundle and then never spend a penny again, that's more important to them than one guy who is there to buy everything. Just because they will lose that one guy to repeatedly get that mass market appeal. And it's just the way of things. I think Pundit was a little bit off when he said they're targeting the small game shop and that sort of thing. I don't really think the small game shops are targeted. As a matter of fact, I think they're going to, as Professor Dungeon Master put out, as you know, on his when he posited on this, that you're going to have kind of like vinyl records. You're going to have those classic collector's edition books. They're going to be very expensive. They're going to have really high-end fit, finish, polish, and artwork. They're going to be designed to be books that sit on the shelf and look pretty, and the kind that you don't open them all the way flat because you're going to wrinkle the spine. You're very careful with the pages, etc., etc. They're going to be collector's editions. And your small hobby shops are actually going to do pretty well with those because they kind of have the opposite idea when it comes to their market appeal versus Wizards of the Coast itself. Wizards of the Coast wants gigantic global appeal where everybody all across the planet can very easily jump in, drop a couple bucks, get access, play the game. Maybe they don't play the game next month, but they pick it up again later. They want that quick, easy access, instantaneous, instant gratification, no frills approach that is also super, super cheap on their part because they don't have all this physical medium. They don't have all the staff. They don't have to maintain a relationship or meet certain contractual obligations with these massive corporations like Penguin House or like Penguin or Random House. Your small game shop, they want a single book that takes up a small area on their shelf that they can sell and make 4 times as much money as they would off of a single player's handbook. They would rather have me walk in and buy that collector's edition set of a Dungeon Master's Guide, a Monster Manual, and a player's handbook for $250 than have to stock their shelves with 4 sets of core rule books waiting on 4 different people to come in and buy them. It's less space. It's less inventory that they have to deal with. It's probably actually going to be cheaper for them than stocking the books. And they're making more bang for their buck with their very limited appeal. It's the difference of maximizing the number of customers and the volume of transactions and maximizing the profit per transaction or the cash flow per client that you would have at the game store. What they do want to kill, however, is they want to eliminate you and me sitting around the kitchen table playing Dungeons and Dragons. They want to eliminate, not necessarily eliminate it altogether, but they want to minimize that. They don't want that encouraged. They want me to go buy the core rule books that are $250, and I get mad when you open them too far because you're going to wrinkle them and hurt the value. They want that, but what they don't want is me having a player's handbook that I throw on the counter, and I don't care if it gets Dr. Pepper spilled on it or salsa from the chips, and we all sit around and goof off, and Johnny has a torn up monster manual, and who cares, and 5 people are fighting over a player's handbook. They don't want that. They want every last one of those people paying $5, $10, $20 to access the information on the VTT. They're also wanting to make sure that we all have everything. I'm sure there will be certain, I guess you could call them pro Dungeon Master bundles, where a Dungeon Master can give somebody daily access to a specific book for $1 or something like that. You can grant temporary access for an adventure or for a campaign and rent that for a short period of time. But what they really don't want is, I'm the game master, I have all the books, we're going to pass the player's handbook around and 12 of us are playing the game off the same player's handbook. 12 of us are getting our magic items out of the same Dungeon Master's guide. 12 of us are taking our turn as the Dungeon Master using the same monster manual. They don't want that. They want to make sure that if I have 12 players, I have 12 players that are all paying, that all have their player's handbook, that all have their monster manual, that all have their Dungeon Master's guide, that all have their magic equipment, arms and armor guide, and at the bare minimum shells out some kind of temporary access fee if I'm going to run a specific product that they wouldn't necessarily buy. So I don't buy into the kill the small card shop conspiracy theory on this. Now Wizards has done some stupid stuff in the past. They've done some stupid shit in this regards with Magic the Gathering by only allowing super elite special mega shops that pay a fee and buy so many products and whatnot to have the anniversary packs and stuff like that. But the honest truth of the matter is that Wizards probably doesn't care that much about those shops, and this might actually end up being a good thing for the local card shop. It is, however, I think a bad thing for the in-person player, because the in-person player is going to have unnecessary hurdles or unnecessary increased expense in order to maintain that at the table playing style instead of being on Discord, VTTs, etc., etc. D&D Beyond is obviously where they want everybody. So, a little bit rambly there, but I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Just let me know. What do you think Wizards of the Coast is up to here? Do you really think that they're trying to eliminate all the small card shops? Do you really think that that's their target? Do you think this was just firing people because they don't want the salaries? Or is this where you think I've kind of hit the mark that all this is they want to move towards digital, and they would love to have those small card shops maximize their profit, making every single player's handbook what they used to get off of 5 players' handbooks. Hopefully next time on the 280ZX, we should be moving into where I was changing the slave cylinder for the clutch and getting it up on the lift and changing out the power steering and a few other things that are a little more interesting for our car guys as we continue that restoration journey. So I'll see you guys next time. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Let's see if we can get the subscriber count up here. I would love to get over 100 by the end of the month. And I'll see you guys next time.